Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Experience Grad York session, Lassonde Grad Admission at York. Today, we have Eileen Watson, our Graduate Recruitment and Liaison Officer, presenting the session. Take it away, Eileen.
Thank you. So welcome to this afternoon's session, um, Experience Grad York, Graduate Admissions at York for the Lassonde School of Engineering. So the presentation today takes about a half an hour, and then we'll have time for an open Q&A at the end. So throughout the presentation, please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A, and we're happy to address them throughout the presentation if possible, or at the end. So what we'll cover in this session is introduction to York University, do a brief overview of why someone might choose to attend grad school, basics and eligibility of each degree level. Then we'll touch on the School of Engineering graduate program specifically, talk about tuition or how much it costs to pursue a grad degree at York, talk about financial support in terms of funding and scholarships. And then lastly, we'll do how to apply, when to apply, documents you'll need to submit, deadlines, all that sort of information. So if you're a current York student, forgive me, but it's just a little bit of information for those that aren't. York is the third largest university in Canada. So we're located in the Greater Toronto area, just a subway ride away from downtown Toronto. Toronto, of course, is the largest and most diverse city in Canada. Population of the region is about 6 million people in the GTA, and actually 50% of the population was born outside of Canada. English and French are the official languages, but across the region, over 200 different languages are spoken by residents every day. So we've actually got several campuses within the Greater Toronto area. First up is Keele, which is where all of the Lassonde School of Engineering programs are located. It's our main campus in North Toronto, and it's got about 50,000 students overall. About 10% or 5,000 of those are graduate students. We then also have Glendon in Midtown Toronto, which is our bilingual French campus, and it's much smaller. So only about 2,000 students overall. About 10% of those are graduate students. Then there's Markham, which we officially launched in 2024. That's just north of Toronto, and there are, excuse me, 5 graduate programs on offer there currently and about 400 students, but that's growing every year. But across programs, across faculties, across the whole institution, there are 80 graduate programs that offer just over 100 degrees and diplomas, and overall just over 6,000 graduate students and postdoctoral fellows. So why might someone choose to pursue grad studies? I mean, everyone's got their own personal reasons, but basically we've distilled it down into 3 reasons, or 3 types of reasons: professional growth, personal development, and academic excellence. So in terms of professional growth, a grad degree opens doors to higher employment rates and higher salaries within those employment opportunities. For personal development, about learning and growing and creating lifelong connections. Then for academic excellence, contributing to advancing knowledge, creating knowledge, and working with the best and brightest in your field. For basics and eligibility, we'll do each degree level before we move into finances and program specifics. So first up is a master's degree. So master's degrees are the first degree level of graduate study available. You can pursue this after you've completed your undergraduate studies or your bachelor's degree, Bachelor of, Science, Engineering, etc. Usually masters at York are 1 to 2 years in length. So the length is it's preset by the program. It's not chosen by an individual student. And usually there are 3 main types of formats for grad programs. So coursework only, major research project, and thesis-based. So for a coursework only grad degree, you're entering the program, you're doing a set number of courses, usually between 8 to 10, And then once you're finished, that's it. You're done. You can graduate. For a major research project-based program, you're doing still courses, so usually about 6 total, and then a large research project a small research project in addition to those courses. Then for thesis-based, you're still doing a handful of courses, but only about 4 total through your whole degree. And you're doing a large research project in addition to that. So most Lassonde School of Engineering programs are thesis-based. To be eligible to pursue a master's at York, you need to have your honors undergraduate degree. So that is, at York, it's the 120 credit degree. Traditionally, it's been referred to as a 4-year degree, but the honors designation, regardless of how long it took you to complete it, that's what's important. If you studied outside of Canada, we have an international equivalency chart that we'll share in the chat. And that says if you studied in this country, here is the equivalent of a 4-year honors degree here at York. We look at your grades within your undergraduate degree, and programs in Lassonde most require a B+, but some will accept a B in your last 2 years of study. So a B+ is a 77 on the 100-point scale, 3.3 out of 4, 7 out of 9, 15 or 16 out of 20, second class, upper division, 4 out of 5, so on and so on. So grad admission at York is competitive. There's always more applications than there are spots in a program. So meeting the minimum admission requirements is no guarantee of admission. For PhD or doctoral degrees, you can pursue one after you've done your master's. You certainly don't have to, but the option is on the table. PhD is an advanced research degree, so the highest available one granted by the university. Usually full-time a PhD will take 4 or 5 years. Could take 6 or longer, depends on your research, but for the most part, you'll be finished before that. And for the format, it's that you enter the program, you take courses in your first, maybe second year, then you write your qualifying or your comprehensive exam, and then it's years and years of research. So to be eligible for most PhDs, you do need a master's. The exception is mechanical engineering. If you are finishing up your mechanical engineering undergraduate degree and you have an A average or above, you are eligible to go right from the bachelor's to the master's, as long as you're finding a supervisor who is ready, willing, and able to support that. For all other PhDs, you do need a master's. The international equivalency chart does contain PhD entry requirements as well if you studied outside of Canada. But we look for we look for students who have a B+ or above in their master's for PhD admission. So these are the programs we'll be talking about today. Civil Engineering, the Master of Applied Science and PhD. Digital Media, the Master of Science and PhD. Earth and Space Science and Engineering, the MSc and PhD. Electrical Engineering, Computer Science. So there's the MSc in Computer Science, the MSc in Computer Science and AI, the Master of Applied Science in Electrical and Computer Engineering, and then the PhD. And last but not least, there's Mechanical Engineering, Master of Applied Science, as well as the PhD. So now we'll transition into finances. We'll talk about tuition, and then financial support. But before we do the tuition and funding tables, I want to talk a little bit more about what funding is, because we have funding and we have scholarships, but they are separate. So a funding package is money given to you by the university to pursue your graduate program here at York. Your funding package usually fully covers your tuition. if not more. And all full-time students in engineering programs except the Master of Science in Computer Science and AI are automatically considered for a funding package. So the AI specialization is unfunded, but everything else is offers funded spots. It's possible to be an international student and to receive an unfunded offer, but at the core, when you're applying for a program, we assume you are applying for a funded spot. If you receive a funding package, the details are going to be in your offer letter. So it would be, congratulations, you've got a spot in this program. Here's how much money you would receive from us if you choose to come study here. So first up, I'll put the, excuse me, domestic funding tables. So you can see each degree I've done master's first, PhD second. For the most part, tuition for Lassonde engineering programs is $5,200 per year. Graduate school goes year round. So it's fall, winter, and summer, 1,735 per term. The exception is civil engineering and mechanical engineering. The tuition is higher. So you can see on the far right, the standard funding package for each of these programs. So again, you do not have to apply for this money. You don't have to pay it back. It's not based on financial need. Now, these are current year numbers. Usually they increase a little bit per year. So for fall 2026, it would be a little bit more. But these funding packages are basically made up of two sources: grant money, so money you don't have to pay back, and a guaranteed job as a teaching assistant. So your tuition is paid out of your funding package, and then the remainder is yours to keep. So put towards living expenses, et cetera, et cetera. I'll just leave that up for a second. We're also putting tuition info or tuition searching info as well as funding package info in the chat, so you can have a look for more details. Then, oh, I guess I should say, if you're studying part-time, if your program allows it, there's no funding for part-time study, but tuition is 50% of full-time tuition. But in Lassonde, most people are studying full-time. For international tuition, same thing. I have listed out all of the programs and then the funding package. Same as domestic, all programs are funded except for Master of Science in Computer Science and AI. The standard master's tuition is just under $20,000, with the exception of civil and mechanical applied science masters, which are just under 23. And then PhD tuition is the same across the board with about 19,000 a year. Then all of the funding packages, same as the domestic ones, are made up of grants and a guaranteed job as a teaching assistant. So I'll just leave this up for one more minute. Okay. And then in addition to your funding package, if you wish, you can apply for scholarships. There's three kinds of scholarships: current student awards, government awards, and external. So for current student awards, you can apply for these once you start school, and they're worth usually between $500 and $5,000. Each criteria for each are different. You would have to have a look through and see like what do I qualify for? What am I going to apply for? So you can make that decision. Um, Basically, you would apply in the fall when you start. Federal and provincial awards, these can be quite large. So 10, 15, 20, $40,000. They are competitive, they are prestigious, and they are require quite a comprehensive application. We do have a scholarship application guidelines on our website. You can see more about each award. The PhD deadlines have mostly passed for these for fall 2026, and the master's deadline is December 1st. But a lot of them are not just entrance awards. It is you can apply in your first year for your second year. Then for external scholarships, these aren't adjudicated at the university level or at the government level. It's independent corporations, foundations, and agencies. So you apply directly to them, and the funds are dispersed through the university, but you apply directly to them. Then lastly, there's needs-based financial assistance. So York financial assistance are bursaries, essentially. You can apply for these once you start your program. Usually it's no more than $1,000 a year, and you have to prove or demonstrate your financial need. So it wouldn't pay tuition, but it would certainly help out with bills for sure. And then if you are a domestic student who is a resident here in Ontario, you're eligible to apply for OSAP, so the Ontario Student Assistance Program, and you can get from the government a mixture of potentially grants, so free money, or loans that you have to pay back. But it's not done through the university, the application itself, it's done on the government website. So you can have a look at that if you choose. If it's very similar to the undergraduate process, if you're currently an undergrad student here in Ontario. If you're from out of province, you would apply through your own province's or territory's funding system. And then you can use that to study in Ontario. Okay, so speaking of applying for things, we're going to put the application link in the chat. You first, before applying, most of these programs require that you find a supervisor before you apply. So for everything but computer science, you would need to be reaching out to faculty members in the program to see if they are taking on graduate students for fall 2026. Or there are a handful where there's entry points other than fall, but taking on students for when you're wanting to start. The application itself is in two parts. So part one is the basic online form where you are going to the website, filling out information. It's very basic. It should take no more than 20 minutes, but you're putting in information about your name, your address, previous schools you've attended, very straightforward. Once you pay the application fee and submit and pay the application fee, then you receive within 2 to 3 days, usually, a confirmation email with instructions on how to submit your documents. So in part one, you're not submitting your documents at all. It is only the form and payment, and that's it. So we'll go program by program on these next couple slides about when to submit for that program and what you'll need to submit. For the programs, it's very similar across the board. So kind of the first four requirements are going to be the same from program to program. So I'm going to go into a lot of detail with the first one, which is civil engineering, just alphabetical. So pay close attention to the first four because I'm not going to go into as deep of detail on the next slides. So first up is civil engineering, both a master's and PhD. The fall deadline is January 15th. So, but they do have other entry points. So if you're interested in working with a specific faculty member, definitely more than fall is on the table. So you could, if they're not available for fall, maybe they're available for a different term. So you are going to need to submit, as an applicant, transcripts from every university you have ever attended. It doesn't matter that if you were on an exchange, a letter of permission, if you were a transfer student, if you have multiple degrees, if you have degrees from 50 years ago, if you have a degree from another country, anything, we need a separate individual transcript document from each separate school. We don't use college grades for graduate admission. So if you did like a postgraduate diploma or certificate or anything like that, I mean, that's great. You can put it on your resume or CV, but we don't utilize those grades for grad admission purposes. References, for this program, we need 2. For others, we need 3, but the exact count is not the focus. We don't accept pre-written reference letters. So what we need is the name and email address of your referees, and then we email them a standardized form to fill out about you. Referees or references, they're referring to the same thing. Referees, recommenders, references, same thing. They can be academic, so someone who's taught you or supervised your research, or professional, someone who has supervised or managed you at a work or volunteer position. Next up is a statement of interest, which is kind of like an academic cover letter. 1 to 2 pages, double spaced, about why you're wanting to do the program, the research you're wanting to do, with which faculty member or members, what you're going to do after you graduate, so on and so on. We're going to share a YouTube link at the end of the presentation that has a link, or well, a link to our YouTube channel. There's a video on how to write a statement of interest that is very useful. You may have attended the session earlier this week, but it's information on what to include, what not to include, and other tips. So highly recommend that. Then resume or CV, which is very straightforward, same-ish as if you were applying for a job. Just a document that says your work, your volunteer, your education, your research experiences. The particular format is not important. So there's a lot of right ways to do it. Then the supplementary application form or supplementary information form is a standard 1-page document that all applicants to grad at York fill out. But just note for, excuse me, the area of specialization for this program is a mandatory thing to fill out. Other programs you don't have to, but for this one they are wanting to see that. It helps them organize their apps. And then lastly, if you studied outside of Canada, you probably or might need to submit a language proficiency test score like IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo, that kind of thing. If you think that you may qualify for a waiver based on where you studied, we can certainly discuss that in the Q&A, but we're really strict about exemptions. So next up, we've got digital media. So this program is a cross between, not even a cross, but it's like a partnership between the School of Engineering and the School of Arts, Media, Performance, and Design. So the deadline is January 15th, and very similar requirement list to civil engineering in that you need to submit all transcripts from all university studies. I don't know if I noted that unofficial is fine. Usually, as long as it's legible and includes all the relevant information. We usually only require official, so sent from the other school right to us, if you're accepted. That's when we need a final document that's official, sent from the other school that includes your graduation, so on and so on. Same as civil engineering, 2 references, not pre-written, just name and email address, and then we send them the form. Can be academic or professional. Statement of interest, which, yes, we will link at the end. So I'll let you know when we've shared it. Resume or CV. For this program, they're wanting to see a portfolio, so samples of your written work, or sorry, samples of your work, not written work, sorry, samples of your work. Then again, the standard supplementary information form that all applicants fill out with very basic questions and potentially a language test, proficiency test score if you meet the requirements. Okay, then Earth and Space Science and Engineering. The deadline is June, and they do have more than one entry, but supervisor availability will fill up. Um, Awards and funding will be given out earlier rather than later. So absolutely apply sooner rather than later. Don't leave it to the last minute. Reach out to prospective supervisors. Now is a great time if you're intending on starting in September. Um, they have a very short requirement list. So transcripts from all university studies, name and email of 2 referees, and then no need for a statement, no need for a resume. It's just the standard sub app, and then the English language proficiency test if it's determined that you need one. Electrical engineering, computer science, please note the early deadline. It's only about 6 weeks away, and today it's October, it's going to be December basically tomorrow. So, yeah, definitely apply early, especially if you're international, just to make sure that you've got enough time, that you've submitted documents, the assessment team has a look at them, make sure everything's in order, and then you have time just in case anything happens or you need to resubmit, you've got enough time before December. This is the document list for the MSc, the MASc, and the PhD all in one. They have the same requirements. So transcripts from all university studies, exact same parameters as the previous programs. Name and email address of 3 referees. So not just 2, but 3, and they do prefer to see academic. So professors or instructors who have taught you or supervised your research. Then the statement of interest, resume or CV, the supplementary information form. They have a regular one and a program-specific one. So you'll see both of those requirement lists. Both are very straightforward. The GRE or graduate record examination is recommended if you are an international applicant who studied outside of Canada. The GRE is a graduate, assesses your graduate readiness in various areas. It's not done through York, it's a private company. You don't need to submit it, it's just recommended for that particular category of students. And then lastly, a language proficiency test if you fall within the boundaries of needing one. Okay, then mechanical engineering. So same as Earth and Space with a later quote unquote deadline of May 15th. They do also offer other entry points if you, for whatever reason, fall isn't feasible. And again, don't wait to the last minute to apply because supervisor and extra funding opportunities will be limited by May. We need to see transcripts from all university studies, name and email of 2 referees, statement of interest, resume or CV, supplementary information form, and then a language test if applicable. And again, we are very strict about exemptions on that. So, okay, so that's the end of the formal presentation. I mean, it's not formal, but that's the end of the slide deck. As I mentioned before, there is a statement of interest video, how to write a statement of interest on our YouTube channel. That's now been shared in the chat. It's the very last link there, the youtube.com/@YorkUFGS. We don't want to give the exact link because we will, in the next 4 weeks, transition from the February video to this week's video. But how to write a statement of interest is there, or if you watch it later, it will be at a slightly different link. But it's the same presentation, the same person doing it. It's just more updated and recent. Like, follow, subscribe, we do announcements, events, student profiles, all that good stuff. And then lastly, we have our admissions email. So if you have any questions whatsoever about graduate admissions at York, applications, programs, please reach out and we are happy to answer or refer you to someone who is able to answer. I'll leave that slide up while we move into the Q&A.